Good evening, I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on this special NewsX and Business World panel this evening. A very special panel joins us to look at how the economy stands today in the COVID-19 pandemic. Remember, the current COVID-19 pandemic has not just affected India, but affected the entire world. All economies are being devastated, but how do we come out of this? Well, for help, the government has come out with a stimulus package. 20 lakh crore is the amount of that, 10% of our GDP. The Prime Minister, of course, announced that last week. The FM, Nirmala Sitharaman, gave the details of that in the preceding 5 days. But today we're going to look at how that package will, of course, help. But what else will need to be done now by industry to emerge strong out of this current situation? Joining us live is Sudhir Mishra, founder and managing partner, Trust Legal. We have Karthik Radia, managing partner, Mazars India, also live with us. Paul Dupuy, CEO and managing director of Randstad India, is joining us. Amit Kapoor, president and CEO of the India Council on Competitiveness, is live with us. Deepak Kapoor, director, CREDAI, Western UP. Gulshan is joining us live as well. Mukesh Mohan Gupta, CEO, MSME Ki Pathshala, is also live with us. Amit Bagga, CEO and co-founder, Daryaganj Hospitality, is joining us. Charu Malhotra, co-founder and MD, Primus Partners India, is live with us. And Anurag Batra, chairman and editor-in-chief, Business World, completes the panel this evening. We also will be joined by Sadia Naseem, founder and CEO, Glam Studios. So let me begin with you first, if I can, Mr. Sudhir Mishra. You know, what do you make of the package that has been, of course, announced by the government? What are the sectors that you believe do stand to benefit? And right now, what are the opportunities for the India story in this post-COVID-19 world?
I think the India story, Uday, would be that a lot of manufacturing and a lot of international emphasis is there to bring investment to the country. And that will surely benefit, which I can see happening in a very short term. But if you ask me, the entire package and how the economy has been handled in last 45, 50 days in such adverse circumstances, save and except that services sector, which I represent here, I think there is a big worry that it contributes 50% of your GDP, but not much has been said about that and how we will protect it. And especially if you just take a test case that you are in national capital region, and you have three important service hubs, whether it's Gurgaon or Noida, Greater Noida, they are a mix of services and manufacturing. And virtually everything is at standstill despite union government clarifying that the movement of business should happen, people should attend office. So there is a need to, at the ground, to move this entire package. The package needs to move on the ground.
Okay. That's a fair point. Let me take...
And Mr. Mishra, we'll come
Anurag.
back to you on what needs to be done. We want your specific suggestion.
Yes. Sudhir?
Uday?
Sudhir, Anurag got a direct question for you. What needs to be done?
So what should the government do?
Yeah.
Why, in spite of the central government telling the state government that it's up to you and get the livelihood back, get the business operations of services and manufacturing going, what are the things that are not happening, and what are your three suggestions?
I will give you my three suggestions. My biggest point is here that you started with a presidential kind of system on 21st to 22nd of March when the whole country followed our Honorable Prime Minister and we went for a very disciplined lockdown. And then the dilution of lockdown happened, and now the stage has come where the states are being expected in a very federal system. They have to take a larger onus to kickstart the business and also save lives. At this stage, what is happening, and which is most important to realize, that it has narrowed down to the district magistrates and the district officials to ensure that the manufacturing happens, the businesses run, people reach to their offices, and all this works in a very unified manner. Take an example, on Friday, Prime Minister spoke. On Sunday, the rules should have come that how National Capital Region will function. I'm sitting in Noida. There is a High Court matter going on, Delhi High Court, that the services sector, the lawyers are a major contributor. We can't attend our offices in Delhi. I have not gone back to Delhi from 21st of March 2020. Now I represent a large law firm. Which contributes substantially on the foreign exchange as well as domestic. I can't access my office. and there was a national capital region which was a symbol of your federalism. Suddenly, this national capital region has become a part of different states. So there's nobody who is on the ground.
Sudhir, what is good about? Let's focus on what's good about the package.
I'll come back to Sudhir Mishra. Let's get in the others as well. Let me get in Paul at this point. Paul Dupuy, come in here. On, of course, what you make of that economic package that has been announced by the government, but also what are the opportunities right now in this post-COVID-19 world for India, Paul, that you see? Where can India fit in to the global world story? How can we, become a firm superpower and also, a part of this global supply chain currently that looks to be changing away from China to other countries in this post-COVID-19 world?
Thank you. Greetings from Bangalore. Well, let's rewind here a little bit. We talk about COVID, the era of COVID, BC, and AC. I don't think there will be an after COVID. Actually, I think we're going to have to live with this. So that's clearly something that's emerged in recent days. If we go back to just a couple of months ago, a few key data points. India was the fastest growing economy in the world, fastest growing workforce, and youngest average age in terms of a workforce in the world. And clearly the spotlight has been on India. And I can tell you, in my company in Randstad, we're in 38 countries. When I meet with the CEOs of other countries around the world of Randstad, no one has the story that India has. And I say has, I still say present tense. Certainly 2 months ago, the wind was at our backs. There were challenges, but India was ready to accelerate. If we look at what's happened the past couple of months, the world has come to a halt, not only India, around the world. And I look at each of the countries out there, countries like China, for example, who were first into this crisis and are starting to emerge now. We learn lessons from what's happening in China. At the same time, it's clear that there are opportunities for India as a result of this crisis, and that's we're already seeing evidence of that. And as an HR Solutions, the largest HR Solutions staffing recruiting company in the world, we're on the front lines with companies that are preparing for the bounce back, preparing for the rebound as COVID starts to settle down. And what we're seeing is, certain industries have been impacted significantly, particularly if we look at travel and hospitality, aviation, retail, automotive, anything related to, again, manufacturing has been hard hit. At the same time, many companies are now preparing for that bounce back. So the stimulus package, in my mind, at $260+ billion US, yes, first of all, is massive. When you think about the sheer size, 10% of the GDP. Japan would be number one at 21% of GDP. But then there's question on which part of the economy that the Japanese stimulus package is focusing on. Tends to focus more on the upper end of the economy, larger companies. I think this stimulus package, when we get more clarity, we'll start to see that it's focusing more on self-reliance and self-sustainability, and let's say the middle end of the economy and below. India is a mixture of informal and formal economy. We talk about the workforce, and people need to be protected. So okay. I see that in the stimulus package. We need more clarity, though.
Okay, more clarity needed. But there is clearly, of course, a push for self-reliance, which is coming to the fore. Amit Kapoor, come in here on what the government has done right so far, and what else they can still do in the days ahead. What all is practically feasible and can actually be implemented in the days ahead, even if 20 lakh crores has not been committed to that as yet.
So, there are two parts to this package. One is very clearly the fiscal stimulus that actually goes in. So there is a certain amount which actually gets into the fiscal stimulus. The other one, what they're committing is in two parts I see again. One is that there is the possibility of taking a loan for an MSME and so on and so forth. And the second thing out here is the structural reforms. So if you really look at it, the government spending increases by about 1% of India's GDP. There is a lot of loan that actually gets in that MSMEs can pick up. The question that arises here is that whether MSMEs will pick up the loans, given the slowdown that they're actually facing, and given the conditions where they are just not too sure whether demand will pick up, will they actually pick up loans? If they pick up loans, how quickly are they able to get back, and so on and so forth. So there is going to be a lot of questions in the minds of the sector. The third thing that the government has done are the structural reforms. And I think we need to appreciate the government here in terms of the structural reforms that they've actually within the agriculture sector, identifying the sectors that India needs to focus on, in terms of identification of the clusters, the 9 clusters that they've done, and this is where investments can actually happen. And they're also talking about redefining the value chains and really being part of the global system. So, and look at the larger issues that have been talked about, and that is about self-reliance. And I think that's, again, a very strong point that the government is saying. But I think there are 2 or 3 additional things that the government should do. Because I think some of these effects will actually play in the long term. Like when you talk about the structural reforms, which are absolutely in the right direction, they're going to take about at least 3 years to plan out, give those results and give the benefits. But in the short term, I think the government needs to really focus on creating demand. And how does that creation of demand actually happen? How do we actually bring money or give money in the hands of people? There is something that has happened through Manrega, like so the poor do get certain amount of money, which is 40,000 crores. But now the question is going to be, how big is that stimulus? Is that enough to really push the demand that needs to actually happen? What else can actually be done? I think what Canada has done, Canada is a great example wherein they have pushed $2,000 for each person and so on and so forth. Can India do something like that? Can the Indian government support the enterprises wherein they say that we are actually going to be supporting 80% of the salary?
And obviously, Anurag Batra, that's why conversations like this are essential, isn't it? You know, conversations like this, getting industry on a platform like ours is essential at this point. And perhaps these dialogues of industry and government, through media and off media needs to continue at this very crucial time. Anurag Batra.
I'll tell you, what I would like to know from Dr. Kapoor and from every panelist that comes on is what is good, what is missing, give specific. My personal point of view is this is installment 1. And let me say that the entrepreneurs, industrialists, business captains are not happy with this package. But I keep telling them this is installment 1. The government has looked at liquidity, the government has looked at compliance, government has looked at big bang reforms, government has looked at SME, and government has also looked at the structural tinkering that needs to be done. So I think there are sectors that have been left out. We have some of those sectors represented on today's panel. Those are industries that are job creators, they're large contributors to GDP, they're also support industry, support to the other industries. So we need to get the government to come on to that. And I keep saying that we shouldn't worry about fiscal deficit for the next 1-2 years. If we get the economy back in shape, we will anyway get to a point which will be good. We shouldn't worry about rating. So the package is good, it's welcome, but in my view, it's installment 1. We need an installment 2, we need an installment 3. And for the next 6 to 12 months, the government should be in action mode, and it will be dynamically assessing the situation and keep doing whatever is needed to get the economy going.
Who wants to take that? Anurag, who would you like to take that point that you raised?
I want to bring in Mr. Gupta, who represents the MSME sector.
Okay.
MSMEs are 75 to 85%, depending on whose estimate you take of the employment. They're also a large part of the GDP. Tell us how implementable is the SME, package? What are the pluses in it? What are the negatives? If you can give us detailing on that, Mr. Gupta, it will help.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Anurag ji. And I fully agree with you that many things have been covered, in fact, in this package, and many more we can expect from the government. If I discuss on the MSME sector, I suppose we got a lot, 3 lakh crore loan, which is guaranteed by government. So this is a big thing. Very big thing to me, apart from the loan, is the payment of the delayed dues, in fact, are held up with the government, with the PSUs of these MSMEs. I suppose the amount is bigger than the loan. The amount can be more than 5 lakh crore, only with the government and the PSUs. Though there is no estimate, there is no confirmed amount, in fact, then there is large sum of amount which is pending with the large corporate. So we can request to the large corporate also to release these payments. But the implementation is very important, and I am also in talk with the government that which payment you are taking up. There are various for which the awards have been given in favor of MSME. There are payments for which various courts have given orders in favor of MSME. we are requesting the government that see, wherever there is any order in favor of any MSME, please don't allow any appeal to the High Court, and it should be paid immediately, because this is their money. If we pay the money which is due to the MSMEs, I suppose they don't pay any interest also. Then the subordinate debt will be very, very important. Subordinate debt is part of the, with the subordinate debt, one, the account will be out of NPA, because the subordinate debt has for the first time in the country, or in the history of our country, or maybe all over the world, this subordinate debt is proposed to be given to NPA or MSMEs. And once anybody will be able to get this subordinate debt, I suppose he will be entitled to a loan of at least 3 times of this subordinate debt, because subordinate debt is basically part of the capital.
And I want to ask Mr. Gupta, a lot of SME entrepreneurs are saying we don't need cheap loans. We need money which is in some way growth capital, and it's not a loan. It's like a support. It's like a subsidy. Like, farmers, we do loan house. So what do you have to say to those SMEs and entrepreneurs who say we don't need a loan, and we don't need a loan to do, salary processing? We need real support. What do you have to say to them?
No. So it is partly true, partly not true. We should understand the problem of the government. We should understand the problem of the bankers also, because it's a teamwork. This corona has not been created by anybody, by any political party or by anything. It's a natural thing. So we all collectively can fight with this thing. As I told you earlier, that for me, the biggest package is the payment of the delayed funds stuck up with the government of these MSMEs. Yes,
so it's not a loan, it is money that was due. It comes in, it acts like cash flow. So front loading of and speed in getting the money is key. Mr. Gupta, will come back to you again. Uday, I think at this point we should bring in Amit Bagga. Amit, you're a food QSR entrepreneur, run a chain of restaurants. Your industry hasn't got any support from the government. You employ 57, you as an industry employ 57 million people. Tell us, what do you feel about this Big Bang reforms?
Well, you're right. We have been totally ignored by the government, and we as an industry employ almost 7 million people, and compared to America, which employs 11 million. And in fact, there was recently Donald Trump called all the restaurateurs together on a round table, and he took all their views and all their suggestions, and he gave them that importance. We as industry, not even got that much.
So what would you expect from the government? As I said, this installment, if the installment 2 comes in, what are your demands from the government?
First of all, we would like, compared to what America has done, a paycheck protection program, something like that, a program like that, where we can get some kind of soft loans, which we could use.
I mean, is it fair to expect that? Because, the government has a very tight rope walk in terms of its own finances. In the last 2 months, the taxes haven't come in, the businesses haven't been working. So the government coffers are also empty. So do you really think a direct money transfer scheme for entrepreneurs in this sector is possible? Do you really expect that?
Honestly, if not a direct benefit, it could be an indirect benefit, which we could also look for. Something like we as an industry don't get an input on GST. That's a big, that contributes to almost 6-7% of our margins. So that's, even if we get that relief of an input on GST available to us again, that also would help us. It's an indirect benefit we get there, and that's that.
Okay, so even if you haven't got a financial bailout, that sort of an announcement will definitely help your industry in the days ahead, and that is realistically possible, is what you're saying. Let's take that then to Sadia Naseem, if we can. Sadia Naseem, your reaction to the reforms announced so far, any help for your sector, and what your expectations are, in the days ahead in these very tough times?
See, I represent salon industry, and that's a service industry wherein, the customer comes in a close contact with the service provider. So it has definitely seen an impact. The salons have been shut for the last 3 months like any other industry. But I would like to say two things here. That in our industry, there are two small things. One is the technician who is offering the service, and one is that small entrepreneur who is not even registered in the MSME. So these two are suffering very badly. The small entrepreneur, the salon owner, who has invested say 15 lakhs rupees in opening up that store, and now he has the fixed expenses in monthly basis which he is not able to meet, and the staff who's just at a salary of maybe 10,000 rupees or 15,000 rupees. So both of them are struggling a lot. However, the announcement from government about the 20 lakh crores package is definitely very, very encouraging for entrepreneurs like us who have been running these brands. Like Glam Studios is a brand, but under that brands there are 200 more entrepreneurs. I am not very sure how those entrepreneurs can actually access this opportunity, and how easy the execution of all these schemes will be. Because as a brand also, I am not able to really see that possibility that I can get that loan, because as per my conversation with a couple of friends who are working in the same industry or are trying to raise working capital, it is being discussed that it is a top-up loan which government has announced. So if you are a registered MSME and you are already having a loan, the entire process of getting that loan will be easier for you. Which I believe is not fair. Maybe it has to be communicated in a simpler way so that people are more aware about it. Second is what are we going to do for the end person who's actually just a person who's a technician who's earning 15,000 a month. And in my brand also, I have 200 salon owners, and they have found it very, very difficult to pay salaries of these people when the salons were not open. So there should be certain steps taken to these kind of people also, which do not fall into the category of laborers also. At the same time, they are not as highly paid as other cooperative people.
So a lot on the government's plate, Charu Malhotra. How much is realistically feasible to be implemented in the days ahead, and at the end of the day, should right now innovatory methods also be used by entrepreneurs? Because look, as Dr. Batra was mentioning yesterday, that a lot of companies have come up not simply because of government help. They've come up obviously because there's a smart business model, a smart idea that's been executed effectively. Is now the time to execute those ideas once again and innovate on, yes, how to adapt to the new normal, but to do it in an economically sustainable manner and feasible manner?
So to respond to that, in fact, the sector that I represent, which is education, we've seen some amazing innovation that's happened. So talking about the government support that they have brought to businesses and industries to avert an economic crisis, that's great. And while vulnerable sections have been taken care of in terms of food, health, livelihood, treatment, because survival is a priority. But if we look at the social sector, education, that's the industry I represent, that is a very important area. And it would not be just right to have a learning crisis added to our health and an economic crisis. So we welcome the announcements by the FM on the steps that have been taken for multi-mode access to digital education during the lockdown.
Sorry, Charu, just to quickly interrupt you, I'm just going to request Mr. Mishra and Mr. Radia, if they can hear us, to just come on. We're coming to you in a second, but we're all on television right now, so it's important to have all your videos on. But yes, Ms. Malhotra, please complete your point.
So coming back to innovation and education, so the announcements which we have seen coming from the FM will provide a big push and an impetus for innovation, especially with digital education, with the PME Vidya program. 100 universities can start online courses. So although while this was already there, but it has been reinforced by the FM. Also with 12 DTH channels starting, where we had 3, the Swayam Prabha. So that is actually sending a message that online education, digital, phygital, various multimodal access to online education, that should be getting a push. And since you mentioned innovation, we have seen over the last couple of weeks very interesting stories coming out how the education sector is resuming online learning with schools and colleges having been shut down. We've heard interesting stories of how teachers have been teaching science from their kitchens. And several such very, very interesting stories of how online education is being resumed. But we have one concern, that school systems, and you spoke of entrepreneurs, and school systems are, especially the private school providers, a small sector, the lower end private schools, as even the large ecosystems like education, government schooling systems, those who have been technology resilient are dealing with it well. But then those who are technology resistant are finding it very difficult to resume online learning. And here is where our concern begins. Who is being left out? Also in a country like India, where the gap between strata is more pronounced, access to infrastructure will make the digital divide more apparent during the crisis.
Anurag Batra, do you want to quickly get in Karthik Radia and Deepak Kapoor
I think we
as
should
well?
first get in Mr. Radia and then I'll come in.
Yes, let's get in Karthik Radia also this point on what your expectations were from the government. Have some been fulfilled through this economic package, and what all is still left to be done?
Sure. So very systematically, government should very transparently come out with the ways in which the whole of this thing is going to come back to track. And there is not a single way where we can say this is the way, but there could be 3 or 4 or 5 scenarios which are applicable in different states and cities where the things, will have to come on track. And I think some of the planning around that is going to be absolutely essential. I hope you guys can hear me. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so some of the planning around that is going to be absolutely necessary, because the whole focus right now is on bringing the things back on track. Systematically, what has to be also done is the impact assessment overall on the economy. And again, there is not one scenario, but there could be 2 or 3 or 4 scenarios just for the next year and the years forward. And also the sectors by sector. So there are some sectors that would need support, aviation, hospitality, tourism, for example. We need to save these sectors. So of course, there will have to be, more than one such different packages that will come. And as Dr. Batra mentioned, this is just installment 1, and we should not be getting worried about fiscal deficits at this point. So an impact assessment is going to be very important as to how our GDP and how overall economy and sectors by sectors it is going to look like. And the last important piece is a long-term structural reform.
Okay.
Both the economic reforms like the tax holidays, and I'm sure some of
before I take a break, I want to get in Deepak Kapoor. He hasn't spoken at all. Deepak Kapoor, what the outlook for
a real estate developer.
Yes,
the past president of Credite.
Absolutely. So what the outlook is for your sector, Deepak, and how much of help the government's package has been for you? You'll have to unmute yourself, Deepak. Yes.
Yes. First of all, thank you very much for inviting here. As far as the real estate sector is concerned, I think for the last 3-4 years, we've been having a lot of hiccups, a lot of turbulences, and one or the other issues have been taken care of, and we try to resolve, try to come back, and we try to come out with a new normal. But now Corona has given us a new dimension altogether. Of course, I appreciate our Finance Minister, who has provided a list of reforms to be implemented. I would say thank you very much for showing the concern, but what is very important is when we read the document, there are a lot of conditions, terms and conditions, which make all these schemes a non-strata. So my concern and my request to your channel is, what has happened in real estate is, I'll give you an example. In the month of November, the same finance minister announced a scheme of 25,000 crores as an alternative investment fund to be provided to all the developing community developers who are stuck up, last mile funding required to complete those projects. So very gaga was done, but the facts of the matter, even today in the month of May, as we are discussing today, is that only 2 developers have been provided a first instance of 25 crores each. Whereas the number of units were 450,000, and these developer will be able to do the completion of apartment of only 1800 apartment will see the ray of light. So what government says, the thought process is very good, very gaga, we all appreciate, we thank you very much. But when it comes to the actual implementation of the scheme at the ground level, there are a lot of if and buts, and actual user where the fund should reach, they do not reach on time. So more and more companies go into ventilator and they run from pillar to post from one department to another department to ensure, sir, with just lower down all these conditions. So what my thought process is that all these reforms are very well, only if they are being implemented, only if they are being provided the last mile action plan is there and you see that action started happening. When we do the audit, we find it is not taking off. So mere announcement will not produce any result. And today, since we are all learning and it's a very dynamic environment, real estate, we are evolving week on week basis. So it is very difficult to predict what is likely to happen in next 10 days. But having said that, we are very hopeful that this too shall pass. So all these announcements are very good. What we need is a simplification of procedures for actions to take place. This is what is my take on the reforms.
All right, let me
Today,
take a
what
very...
we're hearing from each of the panelists is that front loading should happen, the action should happen now,
Yeah.
the disbursements of money should happen now, and there should be clarity and simplicity in execution.
Okay, let me draw back in Dr. Anurag Batra into the conversation here. Dr. Batra, as you were saying, you know, most of the panelists, of course, were uniform in their view. And of course, everyone has had their opening comments. Now we are diving straight into the debate. Anyone can come in when they want to. Please feel free to air your opinion and come in with interventions. But before that, yes, Dr. Batra, you have some specific questions for a couple of our panelists.
My view is, I don't work with the government directly, but my view is that the government will, this was broad, universal, big bang, but the government will now look at sectoral. You know, what can be done in each sector that are left. So that's what I believe. But I wanted Dr. Amit Kapoor's view on what the government could do next. And I would also want Charu to come in because they consult, they are thinkers, they do things, you know, they advise institutions. So I would like to get both of them to say what is needed from the government, what is left and what is needed.
So, Anurag, this is a very important point as to what is it, and I concur with this view that this is something which is just the beginning of what the government actually wants. So they have actually put a fairly good initial frame that there is this structural reforms that we are actually going to go forward with. There is certain level of fiscal stimulus that is actually given in. But I think our next set of stages, which I feel are going to be stage 2, stage 3, I see stage 3 very clearly are going to be demand generation activities or stimulus or and
But the government doesn't want demand to go out now. You don't want everyone to go out and go to bars and to restaurants.
Yeah, but then I think
there's no point doing demand generation activity next 30 days.
No, when you say demand
Possibly will come late.
It is going to happen over a period of time. You have to put money into the hands of people, and what are the set of steps that can actually happen? So that is what the government will have to look at in the short term. You might say 30 days or 60 days, but it will eventually have to happen very, very quickly. I think there are certain steps which are on the cards, and I will believe that will be one of the greatest steps that every India can take. That is in terms of like how we are taxing people. I think
simplify the tax structure because there is always para this. There is
Absolutely.
that footnote. So you'll simplify tax structure. I was talking to Dr. Arvind Virmani, the economist, and he was saying exactly what you're saying, that in the tax reforms, the government can do so much that by just doing that, the government will create demand. So Dr. Kapoor, good inputs. Charu? You'll have to unmute yourself. Charu, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Right. So while the reforms have been reinforced, which were also announced in the last budget, we're really waiting to hear more details and how the government plans to financially support some of these announcements that have been made. But what we really would like to hear going forward over the next couple of weeks or a month is that the whole learning system, be it schools or colleges, it needs to be made more viable for learning. So it shouldn't just be a tick box to be checked, but some concrete steps which will systemize remote learning, which need to be fast-tracked. And as I think Sudhir said earlier on in the discussion, we need to see these happening on the ground. So even though there are live interactive sessions which have been announced, students lose out on a learning perspective sitting in remote locations. So it's simply a case of out of school, out of mind, because we are not used to, as a system, self-study, independent learning. So a lot of things will have to be thought through in terms of content for remote learning, pedagogy. Teachers are not at ease, conducting remote learning classes. They need help. So two things: on the receiving end, the students at home, they lack access to technology infrastructure. Why students, even teachers? Connectivity, power, devices, online education. And I don't think television is really going to solve our learning crisis. Neither will internet, but probably a hybrid of solutions, and the government should start thinking on those lines. At the delivery end, the government must think of end-to-end solutions. It should look at delivery readiness in terms of its teachers, in terms of its infrastructure, and definitely governance processes should also be thought about, which should outlive this crisis.
Thank you, Charu. I want to bring Mr. Sudhir Mishra. You represent a very important sector. You talked about the services industry. You said 50%, but the services industry is about 2/3 of the GDP of the country. It's more than what you said, so I'm supporting your point. What are the interventions you would like the government to do in stage 2, stage 3? We want specific recommendations from you.
Yeah.
You're known to speak your mind.
Yeah, Anurag, I think first let me also compliment the government for doing on the bankruptcy code. They have given us time of 1 year, so it will really help the small businesses and many others also.
Very
on the
important point.
labor reforms, let me tell you, I work with a lot of multinationals and I work with a lot of law firms across the world. They are very, very optimistic about that we are talking about labor reforms in our country. So these are the positives. And the third most important factor is that the positive perception about our governance has been created in the economic centers of the world. So nobody is denying that. You have created that positive perception that you have a strong government which is taking care of the economy, saving the lives. Now let me tell you what you need. You need people of the mettle of Amitabh Khan to have a mirror containment zone. What is the containment zone I am talking about? Economy containment zone. So you need 10 economy containment zone in response to the health containment zone.
You say economic zones should be activated.
No, I am saying you need a definition now. You can call it a saffron zone, you can call it an apple zone if orange zones are there, where somebody should take charge. If somebody is working in Manesar but living in Noida, he is not able to go. If lawyers can't go and access their office in Delhi, you can imagine what will happen to a guy who is working in a factory in Gurgaon or working in Cyber Hub but living for economic reasons in Noida. And let me tell you, this is a very important factor. When you say setting examples, give me 10 slide in economy containment zone. It can be in Cochin, it can be in Delhi, it can be in Calcutta, it can be near Bombay. You need to showcase that economy is not something which only government is going to do. You need a private sector hand-holding, and then only something will translate as an example for the country.
Thank you, Sudhir. Karthik, Mazar is a large consulting firm. You do accounting. You work with big MNCs, big Indian company. What has been the sentiment of the corporates that you work with, clients that you work with? How are they seeing this big bang reform, and how does Mazar India see the big bang reform?
Sure. So and I'm not repeating what, Sudhir bhai said. I think the most important point which is coming up is very, very specific details on, what are going to be the tax positions and the fiscal positions of the government. And remember, right now we are talking about just bringing this whole thing back into track. But which is going to be most important is how once we are back into the normal life, how the whole thing is going to work in terms of the tax structures, the fiscal policies, and all of that. I think that is going to be very important. Addressing specific sectors, because we don't want these sectors to die. So how would we address the specific sectors like aviation, tourism, hospitality? All of that is going to be important. The learnings are very important here. Typically, there are going to be long-term reforms. Things like capital adequacy, resilience, in terms of having the right capital structure, having the right leverages in terms of debt equity ratio. I think those will become very mandatory.
Okay.
And I think that will become a part of the long term of the government. And last, most important thing is the Keynesian economics, which is the only learning that we have at that point in 1930 when we had a Great Depression. We had Keynesian economics that applied to us. Remember, the world economy at that point was less than $1 trillion. today the world economy is $86 trillion, the size where we don't have any kind of a learning.
Mukesh Mohan Gupta, now the package of course has been announced by the government, as we were saying earlier, but its implementation also now needs to be done. Look, it's very easy to allocate money to sectors, but how is that really going to trickle to those who need it the most? So come in there, Mr. Gupta, considering that the MSME sector was actually the first focus of the government on the very first day.
Yeah, so I'll discuss some very basic requirement or the demands of the MSMEs which need to be taken care of. The first thing I'll say that we have to win the confidence of these laborers. I don't understand why we are calling them migrant labor. In fact, they were working for the state where they were playing very important role in the economy of the state where they were working. They were very important part of the economy of that. Now we are telling them that they are the migrant labor. How they will come back will be very $1 million question, because they are going to their places with very sad heart, in fact. So I suppose nowadays we should not send them to their houses, but confidence building is very important. We should give them.
And how do you build that confidence?
No. So it's very easy, I suppose. We have to give the confidence that, see, we'll pay you salary. At least that is very important. So at this moment, I suppose if the government subsidize the salary payment to these labor, because these MSMEs, what is the problem? I'll tell you, Anurag ji. Because these MSMEs are based majorly on their capital, which they have already invested, and then the working capital from the bank. You see any of the account of any of the MSMEs, you will find that 100% working capital is utilized. So they don't have any reserve with them.
Yes, that's right.
So they don't have, even if they want to pay, they don't have any reserve. Another very important thing, we have to change the loan policy of the banks. I had been on the board of a public sector bank. I know in today's circumstances, it will be very difficult for the bankers to give additional funding to these MSME. Reason being, their turnover is decreasing, their profitability is down, their debtors are stuck up. I had come to know many cases, in fact, where the banks are saying that we will reduce your drawing power because your debtors about 90 days. So
because the OD limit was on receivable. Now
yes.
that the receivables in the last 90 days have come down,
No, because they consider, normally the bank consider receivables only up to 90 days. But the receivables of these MSMEs are now 270 days, 300 days.
Right. And what has come, some are based on current, so we understand that. I want to go to
two, three more things. Thus, another thing is that the banker should be advised very clearly that whatever additional funding they will give to these MSME, maybe 10%, 20%, it should not be adjusted against the overdues of these MSMEs. Otherwise, it will be a loan by the bank for the bank. So I suppose this should be a very...
I want to come to Mr. Dupes. Paul, you again work with the cream of the corporate India and large MNC. What is the sentiment on this big bank package when you talk to them? Are they happy and are they looking forward to hire more people? Because that's where you work.
Yeah, thank you, Anurag. And actually, we work with more than 2,000 companies in India at every piece of the economy, across sectors, across the four corners of the country, MNCs, as well as local Indian companies and SMSEs. So I would say that the general feeling is, first of all, this is a huge stimulus package. And as many of the panelists today have discussed, the concern is about implementation. The stimulus package is only as good as the implementation. Mm-hmm. But I want to go back to the word stimulus, what it's really all about. And we've seen it around the world. The US is a great example, and Amit mentioned Canada, where I'm from. There's a big difference. Stimulus should be about first recovery and healing, then it's about acceleration and growth. So first it's about, and in my mind, it's about a safety net. And I think that's what the focus needs to be right now. Let's protect the unprotected. Labor reforms are good, ease of doing business, of course, that's all good, but let's make sure we protect the unprotected, including the migrant workers. But also, when you think about the huge temporary labor and contractual workforce in India, which is unprotected, we need to...
And what is the number of the contractual workforce in India for our viewers?
So I should say that I'm actually an executive board member of the India Staffing Federation. And together, as the staffing industry in India, there are about 1.5 million in the formal workforce. These are contractual workers. But there's a massive number which is in the informal workforce. And this is, we would say, daily wage earners who have no safety net. And frankly, the stimulus package needs to be focused on that part of the economy first.
And it has been focused on that.
And it is.
In some way, it has been focused on
And that's been the response I'm getting
expecting
from...
more, but
Yeah.
in line with the past budgets, which were more inclusive and looking at the bottom of the pyramid and toward disadvantaged sections, whether they were hawkers. So in some way, what you're saying, the government has provided for that.
No, I think...
We're going to bring in Sadia Naseem. Sadia, what do you need as a small business owner? You said you have 200 saloon owners, but the government is helping them in form of MSMEs. You know, they qualify in MS. Some of them may qualify in MSMEs, some may not. What is the specific demand you have from the government?
So I believe that the government should come up with a sector-wise action plan, not only for opening up these sectors, but also for the working capital they may require during the next 6 months journey. So that clarity is not there. Even today, you know, in lockdown 4, we have no clarity in which city salons should open and in which city salons should not open. The center says that it is a decision of state. The state says, okay, fine, the government then no, I mean in the radius of 2 kilometers the decision has to be made. So the communication has to be clear for not only opening these
policy clarity, certainty move while moving forward. I mean, these are the things we are implementation, clarity,
sector-wise action plan. There has to be an action plan that talks about the salon industry in India, because it also contributes, you know, it's around 83,000 crores industry
And
today.
interestingly, even though the MHA guidelines have mandated salons to open, a lot of states have not allowed that just yet, including Delhi.
Exactly.
And Amit Bagga, are you also prepared? And I'll just get in Deepak Kapoor in a second.
I have one more point.
Yes, quickly, Sadia.
Yeah, so first is, and you talked about that those 200 entrepreneurs, they can be registered in MSME, but first of all, they did not have any communication that yes, they are also eligible to become an MSME. How easier is the process of registering on for MSME? And if they are not eligible to register themselves as an MSME, then what are the action plans? So most of our salon owners are micro entrepreneurs. They are not even small entrepreneurs, they are micro entrepreneurs who start their journey with an investment as low as 12 lakhs, 10 to 12 lakhs. So for them to think on those things, to define what is for them, even GST registration is a task. So forget about registration on MSME. So these are, we have to have a very clear communication, sector-wise action plan, and sector-wise implementation plan, and accessibility of all the policies we talked about to the last mile, entrepreneurs.
Okay, Amit, are you also prepared, for your reopening whenever it does happen? Is the restaurant industry gearing for that? Is there going to be an infrastructure change in certain restaurants to ensure the social distancing, which will be essential? Currently, only takeaways allowed, only home deliveries. But when a phased reopening happens of restaurants, then is there going to be an infrastructure change? Are restaurants gearing up for that? What's right now running through your mind?
Yes, we as an industry, we have been working very hard on the safety norms. The regulating authority, FSAI, they have been doing a lot of online seminars, teaching our kitchen staff how to the safety norms we have to follow when we reopen. We are training everyone, all our staff on the service people what all they need to do when the restaurants open up. So all those we will take care of all those safety norms. But the only there's one big issue which we are facing is that if the government says that you open with a 33% capacity, then it's not viable anymore for us to open the restaurant, because at a 33% capacity we will not be able to get enough business to even cover up our rent or our fixed costs. So we expect the government to come out and
that's going to be a big concern, Anurag, because at the end of the day, a lot of industries like restaurants, like cinema halls, like airlines are not going to be able to cover up costs because of social distancing measures. You can't have an airline flying with just 1/3 people, seats taken up. it's not economically viable. You can't have cinema halls working with just one person in a row or two people in a row. It's not commercially feasible for them, and the same for the restaurant industry. Okay, Deepak Kapoor, quickly, if you can come in here before I get Dr. Batra for a last word. Deepak Kapoor, I could see you nodding when Mukesh Mohan Gupta brought up the point on migrant labor, because that affects your industry as well. We're seeing construction activities really take a hit, and real estate giants really confused as to when they'll be able to get back to the new normal, because they don't know when the labor will come back to big cities.
So I would like to add, absolutely, that is what is the fact of the matter, that what has happened, all the state governments listening to the central government has opened the one-way traffic of sending the laborers, which we call it migrant laborers, from every state to their hometown. But there is no provision of bringing them back. It is only one-way traffic. So what is happening is there is an exodus of labor from the sites and is moving back to their hometown. But people who have gone month before, 2 months before, 3 months before, there is no provision of bringing them back. So what we are doing is we are depleting the labor. I tell you, in real estate industries, we started after getting approval from the state governments, and we had good chunk of laborers available with us. But within a week's time, I find the labor has gone drastically down to 70% has moved out to their hometowns. So now the state government is pushing people to go back to their homes. So whatever works we have started, now we are finding it difficult how to continue. I believe if the same trends happen, within 10 to 15 days, developer community have to again put it on a halt. And same thing is happening in the manufacturing industry also. The factories are running. Our vendor suppliers are saying that we have opened our offices, factories, but we do not have a labor to manufacture your product and supply it to you. So all these issues needs to be tackled in a very collaborative approach. It cannot be pick and choose one approach. So government, financial institutions, labor ministry, entrepreneur, businessman, we all need to understand that it is a collaborative approach which will work today, and only then we will see some amount of traction in terms of production of manufacturing, be it real estate or any other industry. And unless the production happens, and unless that quantity, that amount is sold in the market, the economic activity and the economic cycle will not be complete. And if the economic cycle is not complete, it shall be halted, and we will all bear the brunt of all these issues. So that's what is my take. We need to very collaboratively, we need to, again, I stress on one point, policies are very good, very optimistic, promising, but action, ground realities, action at the last point should be made very simplified.
Okay. Anurag.
Rather than me saying what they said, I want to ask all of them, what if they had to say in 3 words, what does the government need to do? In 3 words, Amit Bagga, what does the government need to do?
You're on mute.
Amit Bagga, what does the government need to do? 3 words from you, from every panelist.
Support. 3 words. Support the business. Support our support the industry.
Support the business. Charu,
give us GST input to start with. Give us the GST input to start with. That would be the first thing.
Specific input. Give us the GST input. Say the restaurant chain owner. Charu Malhotra, 3 words.
Crowdsource a solution, involve the private sector, and resume a remote normal as far as possible and as quickly as possible.
Mr. Gupta.
So first thing, confidence building among the labor, that is one. Then restructuring should be allowed even of the SBA accounts, and then after restructuring, these accounts should further be classified as standard accounts.
Got it. Sudhir Mishra.
Yeah, I would say that don't expect district magistrates to be transformed into business facilitator overnight.
Okay, being very real, you need decisions from people who can be catalysts for the economy. Paul Dupace.
Prioritize lives and livelihood equally.
Beautifully put. Prioritize lives and livelihood equally. Sadia Naseem.
So again, we should definitely bring some tax reforms. There should be
bring tax reforms. Dr. Amit Kapoor.
Yeah.
Dr. Amit Kapoor. Dr. Kapoor.
So government will have to spend their way out of it. So spend on infrastructure.
I like that. I think that's the most thing. Government will have to spend its way out of economic crisis. Spend. Mr. Kapoor from Gulshan Homes.
Yeah, I say that provide funds at a reasonable cost of funding and actionability at ground level.
Fantastic. Mr. Radia, you have the last word. Mr. Radia, you have the last word.
Focus on businesses like digital, healthcare, pharma, which are going to work well, and have a great business. These will work in the future.
Okay, okay. We'll leave it at that. A lot of ideation there, and a lot of course, food for thought for the government, for industry bodies, and of course for our countrymen as we move to this new normal ahead. Thank you so much for joining us, all of our panelists on this special panel. That's all we have today on this NewsX Business World Special.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.